Hi everyone, I'm Biljana Nikolovska-Prlja, and today we will talk about questions in reported speech. So, how do we report what other people have said? We can use direct speech, which is used when we quote or when we report what other people have said using the same words. In these sentences, we also use the inverted commas. An example of a direct speech would be, he's playing the piano. Indirect or reported speech is used when we report what other people have said without using the same words. Here we need to make some very important changes. First of all, we change verb forms and pronouns depending on the context, because we usually report in a different place and at a different time what was said. These sentences usually start with say, tell, explain, or believe. However, if we report something immediately or very soon after it was said, then no change in the tense is made. For example, I'm playing the piano. Reported would be, he says that he is playing the piano. As we can see in this sentence, we use the verb in the present tense, he says, and then we only change the pronoun. The tense stays the same. Generally, tenses move one tense back. In this chart, we can see all the tenses, how they change in reporting. As we can see, the present tenses change to their equivalent in the past tense. Past tenses change to past perfect. But past perfect doesn't change, it stays the same. Future and some of the other modal verbs change to their past equivalents, and also some modal verbs stay the same. If we're talking about a situation that took place, let's say for example a month ago, we also need to make changes in the adverbs. For example, here changes to there, now would change to then, today would change to that day, and so on. Apart from changing the tenses and the adverbs of time and place, we also need to make changes of the pronouns. In these sentences, we have an example of the pronouns this, which changes into that, and these, which changes into those. The changes of the other pronouns are given in this chart. Here we have the changes of the personal pronouns, the object pronouns, the possessive adjectives, and the possessive pronouns. When we're reporting a question, we usually start with the verbs ask, wonder, or want to know. Of course, we also need to make all the changes that we usually do in the statements, such as the change of the tenses, the adverbs of time and place, and the pronouns. But we also need to make a change of the word order. This means that reported questions have the word order of statements. Also, if there is do, does, or did in the question, they are not used in the reported question. There are two types of questions. The first type is the WH questions. These questions start with a question word. When they are reported, we start with the introductory verbs, such as asked, wondered, or wanted to know, but we keep the WH word to connect the two parts of the sentence. The question, which is going to be reported now, has the word order of a statement. Who are you? In the reported question, we keep the question word, which is used after the introductory verb. Then we change the order of the verb and the subject, and then we change the pronoun and the tense. So the reported question would be, he asked who I was. We have another example here. Where do you live? When we start with the introductory verb, which is, for example, she wondered, we keep the question word where. We already said that we do not use do, so now we only need to change the pronoun and the verb into past tense. The new sentence would be, she wondered where I lived. In our next example, why did you go out last night? We do the similar changes that we did in our previous sentences. We start with an introductory verb, for example, he wanted to know. Then we use the question word. We already said that we do not use did, so now we need to change the order of the verb and the subject. Then we need to change the subject, which is the pronoun, the tense, and the adverb of time. Last night changes into the night before, or we could also say the previous night. Here are some more examples. How much money does he need? In this example, we can start with they didn't know. As we said, we use the question word, how much money, and then we use the word order of a statement. Our next example is, why was the baby crying? Again, we start with an introductory verb, for example, the girl wanted to know, and then we keep the word order of a statement. The sentence would be, the girl wanted to know why the baby had been crying. Our next example is, how long did the film last? We also start with an introductory verb. They wondered how long the film had lasted. Again, we change the past tense into past perfect, but we do not use did. When can you start? In this sentence, we have a modal verb. We can start the sentence with the manager asked the candidate, and the rest of the sentence would be when he could start. So, as we can see, we change the modal verb into its past equivalent, which is could. The other type of questions are yes-no questions. The difference here is that we do not have a question word. So we use if or whether to connect the two parts of the sentence. For example, will your brother finish in time? We start with an introductory verb. He asked. We use if to connect the two parts of the sentence, and then we do the same changes as we did before. We change the pronouns, we change the tenses, and we change the adverbs of time and place. So, the sentence in reported speech should be, he asked if my brother would finish in time. Let's take a look at this example now. Have you been to Japan? We can start with she wondered. Instead of if, we can use whether, but we also need to do all the changes. We need to change the pronoun and we need to change the tense. In this sentence, present perfect changes into past perfect. So, the question in reported speech should be, she wondered whether I had been to Japan. Do you like coffee? Is our next example. The introductory verb here is he wanted to know. We use if. We already said that we do not use do, does, or did in reported questions. So now all we need to do is change the pronoun and change the present tense to past tense. The new sentence would be, he wanted to know if I liked coffee. Let's see some more examples now. Have you got a bicycle? The boy wanted to know if I had got a bicycle. After the introductory verb, we use if, and then we change the verb, we change the tense to past perfect, and we change the pronoun to I. Is she going to come to the party? We can start the sentence with her friends wondered. Instead of if, we can use whether, and the rest of the sentence would be she was going to come to the party, or the whole sentence, her friends wondered whether she was going to come to the party. Do I have to wear a uniform? The student asked the teacher if he had to wear a uniform. Has the taxi arrived yet? The lady didn't know whether the taxi had arrived yet. You can do some exercises now and change these questions into reported speech. What are you going to do tomorrow? My friend wanted to know what I was doing the next day. Did she arrive before midnight? The father didn't know. If his daughter had arrived before midnight. How long have you been waiting outside? He asked me how long I had been waiting outside. Does he usually cook at home? The women wondered whether he usually cooked at home. How was your holiday? My friend asked us. How our holiday had been. If you want to do some more exercises, you can visit these links. Thank you for your attention and enjoy your studying.